Hey everyone, Coach Ben podcast here with Jim from Jiu-Jitsu Mag. We got a special guest. Jim, bring him on, please.
Oh, my pleasure, Ben. So today we have a former gi and no gi world champion in jiu-jitsu, but we also have the former Bellator undefeated middleweight champion of the world, Mr. Rafael Lovato. Mr. Lovato, how you doing, champ?
Doing
Hey,
amazing.
Rafael.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
We're doing well. As we were kind of talking about a little bit before this call started, it's rather nice here in sunny Southern California, a place that you're very familiar with. You know, oh, and I also forgot to mention Fight to Win Championship, multiple time Fight to Win Championship. And sometimes you get to make it out here in California. But being in OK City, Oklahoma, how is it like training out there these days?
Right now it's very cold. We had like a big winter storm blizzard come through the central part of America, and it hit us pretty good. I've never seen this much snow in Oklahoma. I've never seen temperatures this low. We're breaking records right now. So it's been a little difficult to get warmed up and, you know, get the rounds in like normal. We have to drive really slow, really carefully. Unfortunately, we've been closed since Sunday, and just squeezing in little open mats here and there where we can for those that are brave enough and able to drive and get out. But as usual in Oklahoma, the weather is always changing. And so in a couple of days, it's going to be 50 degrees again. So just have to let this pass. But it's hit us pretty good these last couple of days. But otherwise, training's amazing. Victor Hugo just came back into town. So we've been battling the last couple of days. I have another brown belt here from Brazil as well, a friend of Victor's, 21-year-old kid who's hungry and made his way here to do a full season. And then I have all my guys, of course. And right now we're getting ready for the Dallas Open in a couple of weeks. I have over 40 competitors there. And yeah, that's about it. Just doing what we do.
So it seems like the weather is forcing you guys to quarantine in some form, but has the pandemic affected the quality of training you've been able to do during these times?
Yeah, I mean, when we were quarantined last year, you know, just like everyone else, we were a little stuck, and all the uncertainty and all that, and you know, we didn't get hit as hard as everywhere else. We were able to open back up in June, so we were closed like 3 months. It was like almost exactly 12 weeks, which was hard. I just did my grand opening for this beautiful new facility at the end of February, and 2 weeks later we had to close. So that was extremely difficult for me personally on a lot of levels, because right before that I came out and opened up about my brain diagnosis in January on the Joe Rogan show, and how I was indefinitely not going to be able to fight anymore. And to help me get through all of that, I was like, well, okay, I have my new school. I still have jiu-jitsu. I can't fight MMA right now, but I still have all these great things, you know? And then boom, pandemic, and no academy, no training. And I was just like, yeah, I battled some depression during that time. And just like, you know, everybody, it was difficult for all of us, but we're able to come back in June. And, you know, it was still pretty stressful, having poured everything that I had into this school, and as well as taking on a pretty substantial debt to make this beautiful place possible. It's my office.
Wow, look
Wow.
at that.
A few kids down there. And,
Bird's eye
Look at how
view.
big that academy is.
yeah,
Now-
it's 10,000 square feet. And so even though we opened back up, you know, we still had people pausing, canceling, business was slow and all that kind of stuff. And I was trying to compete and deal with all the business at the same time, and had some ups and downs last year. You know, last year was a rough year. But at the end of it, we made it through. and we got our numbers back up, and we're stronger than ever. So now I feel great and really excited to have a full year in our new facility and finally be able to focus on the growth that I was wanting to get last year.
Awesome. Rafael, I have a lot of questions for you about business. I'm an academy owner too. And, I look at what you do, your competition, especially your MMA accomplishments, and even just your jiu-jitsu accomplishments. You've competed every year pretty much since like you've started training. I looked at your record, and every year you have at least one grappling competition. And so I'm a business owner. I also am a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I find what you're doing to be impossible. I cannot believe that a human being can do this. Even one of the things that you've accomplished, I don't think, is possible. Like winning the Bellator title. How do you do all these things all together? How do you put them all together?
And you just do it. There's no secret. I mean, it's a lot of hard work and trying to manage your time and your focus to be in the moment for each thing. If I'm at the academy and I'm working with my staff, I have to be present on that. If I'm teaching a class, I'm 100% present on my class, giving my best to my students. If it's my time to train, then I'm 100% focused on my training and giving my absolute best in my own training. And don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not easy. Like, there's a lot of times where you get broken down, especially through my MMA career. That training is so brutal, so grueling. And I was doing 3 sessions a day, strength and conditioning, technical session, sparring session, like basically every day. Muay Thai, wrestling, grappling, wall work. You go on and on. Then you throw in the sparring and everything else. It was difficult. But what I find for me personally is I'm at my best when I'm doing all 3, right? So basically three realms. I'm focusing on bettering myself, my own personal development, my training, the things that I do to challenge myself inside my career and as an individual, as a martial artist. And teaching, I love to teach. I love to share what I've learned and help those around me grow. And of course, business as well. And I just make the time to work on all 3 of those elements every day. I'm horrible at business if all I do is business. If I spend a whole day just working on business, I'm going to get grumpy. It's not going to be the best me because I didn't get to train. I didn't get to work on myself, and at the same time, I love to teach. I love to work with my guys. I love to coach. I love to bring up my team. And I know that all of those things work together. If I'm helping those around me, it makes me better. It makes me do better. And at the same time, I mean, the one that I could probably slack off on the most is the business side. But I enjoy the hustle. I enjoy the learning and the work that takes, and seeing the systems get put in place, I have goals. I want to provide. I want to have some sense of financial freedom at some point, and I just try to chip away at each of those 3 things a little bit every day. That's it.
So Rafael, Ben touched on it, on all the things you've done, and then you just touch on too the hustle. Let's just give the people a short summary of how you even got into jiu-jitsu specifically, because you come from a martial arts family. Your father was your original instructor, and I think it's an amazing story to just kind of anchor people in what hustle means to you. Because you're out there in Oklahoma. You weren't born there, but you were raised there, right? In Oklahoma City. And what you had to do when you learned jujitsu because it wasn't as available. Go ahead and share a quick story of how that goes, how you got
Mhm.
into jujitsu.
Yeah, so I'm a lifetime martial artist through my father, who's also a lifetime martial artist. He started boxing when he was young, and then being inspired by Bruce Lee, that took him more into the traditional martial arts realm, and then actually led him to Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's system. And when I was growing up, my father was heavily into Jeet Kune Do, and he was learning and training with some of Bruce Lee's top students, Danny Inosanto, Richard Bastillo, who are both just two of the most incredible martial artists that have ever lived, that I've ever had the pleasure of learning from and coming across. And that was me growing up as a kid, was inside the Jeet Kune Do world. And we moved to Oklahoma when I was 8 years old. My mom is from Oklahoma, and we moved from Ohio to here, uh, really just to take advantage of the 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 better quality of life. You know, your money goes a lot farther here. Things are a lot cheaper, and you can have a home and all that kind of stuff. You can have a business, and that's what happened. My father started teaching martial arts here, and he opened up his own school, which was a Jeet Kune Do school, and it was right in the early '90s that he got exposed to the Gracies through Jeet Kune Do. Jeet Kune Do was basically the mixed martial arts before mixed martial arts. Um, they understood that combat existed in ranges. From weapons to kicking to punching to like a trapping, grappling, clinching range, on into combat on the ground. And so they were ahead of the time. My father was way ahead of the time, as far as understanding how to mix all martial arts together. And in one of his JKD instructor conferences that took place in Los Angeles, they had the Gracies there, and this was right before the UFC. It was literally like the same year, uh, and and that was it. We knew a couple months later when the UFC took place, that the Gracie Hoist was going to win, and and that was it. Like, he just gave everything to learning jujitsu. My dad's a much smaller guy than me. In those days, he's like in his 30s, and he was 145 pounds. He was very small, and
You
so understanding the technique and the leverage inside of jiu-jitsu, he really just gravitated towards that and went all in on bringing jiu-jitsu to Oklahoma, and earning his black belt. And then I was shortly after, I got my black belt a year later, and we were the first American father and son jiu-jitsu black belts, the first black belts in Oklahoma. But it was really all because of my father. He's a pioneer of martial arts and jiu-jitsu, especially in this area of the country, and we just never stopped.
and you guys used to make road trips from Oklahoma out to California, correct?
Yes, yeah, I did that trip with my dad a couple of times on spring break, on Christmas break, and then he did it many times on his own. Uh, and we were so fortunate. A couple years later, Carlos Machado moved to Dallas, Texas, and my father had already gotten exposed to the Machado brothers in California. And so Chuck Norris, who was living in California, um, he got signed to do the Walker Texas Ranger show, and that was filmed in Dallas, Texas. And in order to continue his own training, he brought Carlos Machado to Dallas, Texas, um, just for himself. And Carlos's first school was inside of the studio where they filmed Walker Texas Ranger. And so that was like a lifesaver for us, because now my dad didn't have to drive all the way to California anymore. He just had to drive 3 hours down to Dallas, and then I started going a lot, and I actually spent a lot of time with Carlos when I was younger. He was so opening and hospitable to me, just a little kid at the time. And I would stay with him and train in every class, help him with every private lesson. I actually helped him build one of his, well, not build, but I helped him lay the mats and move and put everything into one of his academies at the time as he grew and expanded into his own school. And so that was it, you know, and then it was just Texas over and over. And I started going to Brazil. I went to Brazil for the first time in 1999 when I was 16. And I went to Brazil every year, and everything always came down to traveling. My whole life has been traveling, pretty much traveling to learn, train, compete. And now I also get to travel to teach. And, you know, it's a pretty good life.
I would imagine you have seminar requests like every day, right? It's pretty. It should be flooding your mailbox. I wanted to touch on. You mentioned those three things, right? The business, it was your own personal development, and then coaching students, right? This is something that I personally struggle with as kind of, everything except being a competitor. I do also, and just that mindset of being a competitor, especially being a high level competitor like you are, and then being a business owner and then being a coach. How do you manage the mindset? You know, because in competition, to me, it's a zero sum game, right? I win, you lose. In coaching and in business, it's more of a different mindset. It's, we all need to come together as a team and win. How do you manage that dichotomy?
Well, for me, it's more similar. It really is kind of all the same to me. You know, I'm very fortunate that my whole life has been martial arts, and so everything that I know, you know, for life, I approach with a martial arts mindset. You know, everything I can apply, everything I've learned in martial arts, I can apply in every other element of my life. And you know, when it comes to teaching and coaching, for example, for me, that's part of being a true martial artist. What I call a true martial artist. You know, you understand that you only hit a certain level. You can only hit a certain level until you really develop yourself as a teacher. And once you become a teacher, it makes you better, and you will hit a higher level, because now you have to communicate all of your whys. Why do you think it's supposed to be done this way? Why does it work for you like this? You know, what are your details? What do you have to say about your jiu-jitsu? What do you have to give to everybody else? You know, and how are you going to inspire them? If you know, and if you struggle to inspire yourself, how are you going to inspire others? And so the more that I can tap into those things, the more it just comes back to me. The more I make those around me better, the more it makes me better. The more I work to inspire them, the more it inspires me and it holds me accountable. I have to lead by example. There's no other way. And so they in turn inspire me and give me energy back, and they make me better and push me to be at my best, because I can't lead them, can't do anything halfway. You know, I have to really give my best. And and that's what I, you know, if that's what I'm telling them and that's what I expect of them, then I have to do it myself. Otherwise it's just words, you know, it doesn't mean anything. I talk to them about leaving their comfort zone and challenging themselves and dedication and working hard and all the things that you have to give to martial arts and to the journey. You know, I have to represent those things on a daily basis. So it holds me accountable. You know, if it's just you, you could take a day off. No one's gonna say anything. You know what I mean, or whatever. You know, I don't really have a leader or a mentor here on a daily basis, you know, pushing me. And so by pushing them, I push myself. And so it gives back to me. And same thing with business. You know, if I'm talking about learning and growing and getting out of my comfort zone and things like that, I have to take the time to get on the computer and do the emails and you know, read and watch different videos to inspire me or to learn from for the business and the marketing, the systems and everything that needs to be in place. You got to spend time on it. Of course, I delegate where I can. That's a part of working your schedule just right. I try to spend most of my energy on my staff and making sure that things are getting done and delegated properly. And I'm very fortunate that I just have a lot of great people around me who believe in the vision and are down for the cause. And all that comes back to, to you and what you're doing. And so, for me, it's all one and the same. And it all works together. If I do too much in one piece, all the other, the whole foundation falls apart.
I think you have a very martial arts approach to all these things, and that's to me super rare. Because I started out as a strength coach, in team sports, so my perspective on how it is to be an athlete is very different than what happened when I came to jiu-jitsu. When I came to jiu-jitsu, I realized, like, wow, how in the world are you going to run an academy, coach your students, and win the world championships? There's just this is not, you don't think like that in team sports, right? There's a coach, there's the person that owns the gym, the business, you're on a team, you just have one singular goal. You must focus on that one thing. And it seems like you're taking a martial arts approach, and it's just so rare. I've never seen anybody do it, to be honest. I've never seen anybody, get to the highest level of a sport and then also be a good coach, and own a business. It's just, to me, that's the mind-boggling thing. But you said it. You said there's no secrets.
Yeah,
it's just hard work.
In fact, I wanted to add to that because, Rafael, you went into detail about eventually answering the next question we kind of had for you is about the team that you assemble and everyone's role. So real quick, I want to just kind of wrap up your thoughts on the team and what you look for the people around that you surround yourself with, some of the values. But then I want to get a little bit stylistically into your style, your jiu-jitsu style. But I want to hear about the things that you value in putting together a team. What are some of the decisions that go behind that?
Well, first, just going back one more time, everything that I'm saying and all the work and, juggling all these things. First, I just want to reiterate that I'm influenced, and everything that I do today is because of the way I was raised, and seeing my father basically do the same thing. He had an academy. He was working on the business. He was working on himself, his training, building students. This is what I grew up in. And, the martial arts side of this, that lifestyle of being a martial artist is everything. I mean, that's literally all I know. I didn't work another job. I didn't, there was no other sports. There was nothing else, no other life passion except martial arts for me. And that is who I am. So I'm not a jiu-jitsu guy. I'm not a competitor. I'm not, just a teacher or whatever. For me, it's all one and the same, being a martial artist. And that's who I am. That's why, going into MMA, I felt like I had to really like tell that and describe that to people. And that's when I started using like the hashtag true martial artist. And for me, that goes beyond just being a jiu-jitsu guy. You can be a jiu-jitsu guy, you can do martial arts and not necessarily be a true martial artist. But that's what I always represented. So knowing who you are and what's your why and what you're trying to put out there is so important in your work on all elements. Who you are when you step into the competition arena, the battlefield, who you are when you're a teacher, who you are when you're developing your team and your business and all that. You have to know your why and what you stand for. And for me, like I said, it was very, uh, I mean, I found it early on because of my father. So going into the next side of what you're asking, as far as the team and the people that surround you, you know, if everyone that comes to me, that I attract, you know, that magnetization, the energy, you know, I fully believe in the energy, right? Um, I end up coming across other people who are incredible martial artists who have the martial arts mindset and the values, bettering those around them. You know, they're all teachers. Everyone who's my student also is a teacher. So my Muay Thai coach, my head MMA coach, he's one of my black belts. My wrestling coach is one of my black belts. My strength and conditioning coach is one of my purple belts. You know, Shanji Hibero, he is a student of Muay Thai. He is a student of wrestling. He is a student of mobility and yoga. Another one of my students, Cameron Shane, is my yoga and mobility teacher. So we all are the same. I just, you know, you just come across these people because of the same values and the same mindset. We link up. It all has happened naturally, and and that's how it works. And you know, when I'm teaching that mindset and that lifestyle and the culture inside my school, you know, you're bringing up people the right way, you know.
I think you
and
said something
and
very important there, Rafael. I think you mentioned a concept that I haven't really even thought about myself, which is, instead of what Jim asked, is what values you look for in other people, right? I think what you're saying is you have certain values and a way of life, martial artist way of life, that you have decided that you're going to do. And it's not about, like, you know, bringing other people in with the same value. You will attract those same people over time, because you said in the beginning of the interview, leading by example. You know, if they
Mhm,
see what you're doing, and they're not about that, then they'll see their way out, or you know,
mhm,
you won't attract them. So I think that's a really, really important thing to just understand, is you can control yourself, and what happens is what happens. You know, I think that's what you're saying. Am I getting you correctly here?
no, 100%, 100%. It all happens organically, and sometimes you don't realize, you know, how special and how strong those relationships are going to be in the very beginning. um, but you know, as we all grow and develop, um, you know, if they're growing and developing with you, then those relationships grow stronger, and you become more of the same, more one, you know, one. And I fully believe that's why I had the success that I had in MMA in such a short time. um, you know, because of the people that I was around. Everyone that was a part of that right there, um, we were all active students and teachers of each other. Every single person inside my camp for MMA. Shanji was learning Muay Thai from my Muay Thai coach. You know, at the same time I was. He was learning wrestling from the wrestling coach the same time I was. He was also teaching jiu-jitsu to them at the same time I was teaching jiu-jitsu to them. Same thing with the yoga mobility, the strength and conditioning coach. Everyone was together. My dad, you know, my dad's in the mix, training, you know, 60 plus years old, also training with everybody, learning from everybody, and teaching everyone at the same time. We were all actively developing ourselves at the same time. We were helping each other and focused on the mission. And I was just a representative of all of them, you know. I got to be the one to be the sort of the action figure
Bringing
of
the team
all of the
approach.
work, all of the
You're
work
you're
that we
bringing the
did as a
team
team.
approach into the
Mhm.
into MMA. And
Yeah.
let's talk about that. I know we only got you for a couple more minutes. Let's talk about that Bellator win you had over Musasi. So you know, me and Jim talk a lot about sports betting on this show. You were like a 5-1 underdog, right? So you actually, you were like a 4-1 underdog. Musasi was a 5-1 favorite. And I did bet a couple bucks on you. So thank you for that. Thank you for that win.
I need my cut. I need my cut.
A couple
So
bucks.
I won someone a car. I got a
Yeah.
message that someone won a car off of me.
Well,
Oh, that's
100 would
awesome.
net 400, you know. So if you're 4-1 underdog, 100. But so if you bet 1,000, you get 4,000. So he must have bet a good amount. But Jim wanted to talk about your style, and I definitely wanted to cover that through this match. I watched that fight, and it was one of the most, I would say, brilliant performances I've ever seen using jiu-jitsu. You know, you basically beat Musasi with a game plan. At least that's what I saw. You know, you beat him. There was a specific plan that you had, which involved you know, kind of going to the half guard and then take him down from that. I've never actually seen anybody use that as effectively as you have in that fight. And then, you know, Musasi's probably, you know, he's been around forever. He's probably a more complete, you know, martial artist as far as the mixed martial arts experience goes. So you took him into the waters that you knew best, and then he couldn't keep up, and you won. Was that the game plan, to use your jujitsu like that?
Yeah, of course. But you know, in every single fight, got asked, "Oh, what's the strategy?" You know, da da da. Oh, he's a jujitsu guy. Obviously, I want to bring people to my strengths, and I basically want to win as cleanly and as efficiently as possible. But I'm going to use all weapons. You know, you can't just go there thinking, "Oh, I'm going to take him down and finish him, and it's over." You know, and that's it. And so I was always focused on being the best martial artist I could be in MMA, and using all my weapons. You know, I had to get respect from Musasi on the feet first and foremost, and it's always, you know, everything works together. So you know, understanding my presence as a jiu-jitsu fighter, and more or less people not wanting to go to the ground with me, well, that's going to bring a lot of caution into the way they approach the striking. Okay, because they have to be concerned of me closing the distance and getting the takedown and things like that. So what does that do? That gives me the opportunity to open up with my striking. And you know, it may not look like I did much on the feet with Musasi, or maybe in any of my fights, um, but I guarantee I got the respect out of every single one of my opponents on the feet. A couple of them even said to me afterwards, "Hey, you were a lot better on the feet than I expected, or you were faster or moved better than what I expected." You know, they expected a jiu-jitsu guy, and you know, that was so important, because then it opens up the takedown and it allows me to close a distance, and then I can use the threat of the takedown to land strikes. I don't really have to worry about them trying to take me down, you know, and it all worked together. And then specifically, my style of jiu-jitsu translates very well to MMA. I knew that before I ever fought MMA. I knew that my jiu-jitsu was made for that because that's what I grew up in. And I was doing MMA. I mean, back in the days when my dad had the school, you know, I mean, it was a different time then, and it was way old school. And my father has always been a complete martial artist. You know, that's what I grew up in. I never, in the beginning, if we did no gi, there was no gi. If we took the gi off, we were putting gloves on and we were
It was
doing MMA.
MMA.
I was doing MMA since I was 15, 16 years old. And we used to have guys come in and, you know, they want to talk talk trash and blah 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 blah. And it's like, okay, you know, put the gloves on and fight my son.
I'm
And
glad you said that,
that's what I used to
Rafael.
do when I was a kid. You know, it was always about combat. And my jujitsu was made for that. It wasn't made to win titles, or for the sport of jujitsu. You know, it was a different time. There was no sport jujitsu. When we first started learning jujitsu, we didn't even know there was tournaments. They didn't even know that sport jujitsu existed. And so everything was about real life self-defense and combat. And so I knew my jiu-jitsu would translate well, and for me, it was just my opportunity to put my whole life as a martial artist together into one moment. Every fight was a moment for me to express myself as a martial artist, and it worked out very well. But you can't get too, yes, I had the strategy. Of course, I want to take them down, but you have to be flexible. You have to know I'm going to have to strike. I'm going to have to wrestle. I'm going to need a couple surprises. The half guard was a surprise. The knee tap was a surprise. And if those didn't work, I had backup plans. And that's what it was. You have a strategy, but you can't get too fixed.
Right. I'm glad you said that part about the striking, setting it up, because it actually leads me to my last question for you. And it's also a blind spot for people like me. I'm jiu-jitsu, all the way. So when I see, almost like when I see you fight or anybody fight, I don't even think about the striking, because I'm like, well, this guy's jiu-jitsu, I'm waiting for the jiu-jitsu. And I think a lot of fans have that in their mind. So even if you put on a striking, display, people will think, they'll only remember your jiu-jitsu. And I think that's just a blind spot of fans of jiu-jitsu. But the question I had for you was, so this weekend, we had Rodolfo Vieira take on Anthony Hernandez. And he was doing great. First round he was winning the fight. I thought the submission was there, for the taking, and he didn't get it. But in the end, it seemed like he gassed out, and then it got submitted himself. I just want to hear, your comments on that. What do you think happened? And do you have any thoughts on that specific fight?
Well, first thing I would say is everyone needs to tread carefully with how they critique, how they talk about Rodolfo, that performance, that fight. I think it's going to be huge in his growth and development. And unless you've been in that cage, then you have no position to say anything. You have no place to talk, because it's a completely different world. It's a completely different world, completely different game, sport, combat, whatever you want to call it. Your belt and any titles that you have in anything, quite honestly, doesn't mean jack, right? You see world-class strikers get knocked out by nobody strikers, because it's little gloves and because there's takedowns. It's a whole different game. And you see world-class jiu-jitsu people unable to finish high-level jiu-jitsu people, and even get submitted by non-high-level jiu-jitsu people, because it's a completely different form of combat, and nothing matters. All that matters is how well you put it all together. And the pressure of being in the cage, the pressure of taking damage, the pressure of missing an opportunity, it can fatigue you. It's mental, it's tiring, it's heavy, and and that's what happened. And then you get hurt a little bit, and you can get finished by anything. I mean, I never really had that happen in a fight. Of course, Musasi put some good ground and pound on me after I missed some positions. But I made mistakes in training. I had guys who weren't on my level in jiu-jitsu, do certain things to me and get to positions. And I mean, it's just a different game. And so number one, respect to Rodolfo for the challenge, for putting himself out. It's so raw, there's nothing more raw than being in that cage locked with someone, for everyone to see how you react, what goes down, if you get tired, if you get hurt, if your emotion, it's completely on display. You have, like, you're barely even clothed, you know what I mean, and you're just like an animal, and for people's entertainment. And so all respect in the world to Rodolfo. I hope he's keeping his head up. holding it high, because he deserves it. Not very many people can do that, and let it go. It's the past. You can only learn and move forward, and it'll make him that much better of a martial artist. Of course, there's mistakes, but there's always mistakes, and you have to, you have to let go of that and just move forward, but hold your head high, because it's the most extreme form of personal challenge that exists, in my opinion. And we're still very, very proud of him. And it is what it is. It is what it is.
So,
it
so
happens.
So Rafael, how are we doing on time? Because I know we're flirting with you. You have to get out of here, and I do
Yeah.
have one more thing. If you have time, do you have time?
Yeah. Last one.
Last one. Okay. Your MMA career was stopped abruptly short. You were undefeated. You were on top of the world. You just fought one of the baddest dudes in MMA. Why was it cut short? If you could tell people about that, and what is next for you?
So, it's a long story, and I give the full story on the Joe Rogan podcast from about a year ago. But it was discovered that I have a disease in my brain called cavernoma, a brain condition called cavernoma, right before the title fight. It was the first time I was ever required to get a brain scan done to get approved to fight. And so I had no idea, no symptoms, no issues, never had a concussion, nothing. I hardly even get headaches. And then get this brain scan done, come to find out I have this disease. It was a lot of uncertainty, very, very difficult time. I didn't get approved to do that fight until 2 weeks before the fight. So the whole camp, pretty much, I didn't even know if I was going to get that opportunity. And, everything worked out the way it did. And I thought, all right, I got the title, on top of the world, like you said. And since I got approved, I'm going to be good to go. But the European Commission later decided that I should not have been approved to fight, because we fought in London, and that they wouldn't approve me to fight again. And then I had already scheduled the rematch, which was going to be in California. And we talked to the California Athletic Commission. And after some time, they decide that I wouldn't get approved to fight there either. And that's what sidelined me. I did not retire. I did not officially retire. I was just forced to the sidelines, and I've never given up. I'm still working on possibly being able to come back, and doing everything right, seeing doctors, talking with the commission, doing all the steps. I'm not trying to put myself at risk, but the best doctors that I've seen all say that the risk is extremely minimal, less than 1%, than anything would happen according to my specific condition. I was born with it. I have the gene, the genetic deficiency. I've had this my whole life. I just didn't know it. And I've been getting hit in my head my whole life, and I'm okay. And there's no data to support getting hit in the head is going to make it any worse. And so really, I'm just hoping for at least one more opportunity to go out on my own terms, because it felt like it was all taken away from me. And that's it. In the meantime, I'm still doing what I do, teaching, training, competing in jiu-jitsu and grappling. I focused on the gi last year. I made a comeback to the gi after several years away. Had some ups and downs with that. It was an up and down year, with the pandemic and everything, business, all the uncertainties. But I still challenged myself, and I'm proud of myself for putting that gi back on and competing against the best, even after all the years away and being a little older these days. But that's it. Now I want to come back to more no gi, do some big grappling super fights this year, and hopefully be able to step back into that cage one more time.
Well, right on. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Lovato, a champion on and off the mats. It looks like you've never had a pizza in your life because you're at a constant state of abs. Ben, any last words?
No, thank you, Rafael. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody learned a lot. I definitely did. Where can people find out, if they want to support you or support the Academy?
So anyone around Oklahoma is always welcome to visit us here in Oklahoma City. My Academy website is okbjj.com, OK for Oklahoma, bjj.com. and I'm pretty easy to find on social media. Lovato, Lovato JRBJJ, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. And any academies out there interested in having me for a seminar or affiliating, can reach me through my social media. My email is right there on my Instagram. Feel free to email me. We have 25 academies worldwide now in the Lovato Association, and I'm definitely focused on growing that as well these days, and just working on spreading the true martial artist, timeless jiu-jitsu movement, and also working on a book. All just doing everything I can, and life is good. Working
Awesome.
hard, doing what I love.
Awesome.
Thank
Beautiful
you. Thank
thing.
you, sir.
All
Lovato
right.
Thank you very
Jr.
much, guys.
BJJ. Lovato
Take care. All
Jr.
the best.
BJJ. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Raphael. I'll talk to you.
Take care.
Talk to you again soon. Later, man. Thank
Definitely.
you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.